Yashodanandana Brajajana
Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada. Jaya Kodanitai Maya Poshashi Kodanitai Maya Poshashi Maya Poshashi Kodanitai Jaya Maya Poshashi. ISKCON Govinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shishi Kodanitai Maya Poshashi ki jai. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita. Thank you, Haribol. No, thank you. The bead stringing, chanting, reading, and dozing went on until 11 at night, when everyone was invited up to Swamiji's room. As they filed through the courtyard, they sensed an unusual calm in the atmosphere, and Houston Street, just over the wall, was quiet. There was no moon. As his followers sat on the floor, contentedly eating prasadam from paper plates, Swamiji sat among them, telling them stories about the birth of Lord Krishna. Krishna had appeared on this evening 5,000 years ago. He was born the son of Vasudeva and Devaki in the prison of King Kamsa at midnight, and his father, Vasudeva, immediately took him to Vrindavan, where he was raised as the son of Nanda Maharaj, a cowherd man. Swamiji also spoke of the necessity of purification for spiritual advancement. It is not enough merely to chant holy names, he said. One must be pure inside and out. Chanting impurity brings spiritual advancement. The living entity becomes impure because he wants to enjoy material pleasure. But the impure can become pure by following Krishna, by doing all works for Krishna. Beginners in Krishna consciousness have a tendency to relax their efforts in a short time. But to advance spiritually, you must resist this temptation and continually increase your efforts and devotion. Michael Grant. I first heard about the initiation, just one day before it was to take place. It had been busy with music. I had been busy with music and hadn't been attending. I was walking down 2nd Avenue with one of the prospective initiates, and he mentioned to me there was going to be something called initiation ceremony. I asked what it was about, and he said, all I know is it means you accept the spiritual master as God. This was a big surprise to me, and I hardly knew how to take it, but I didn't take it completely seriously. And the way it was mentioned to me in such an offhand way made it seem not very important. He asked me casually whether I was going to be involved, and I, also being very casual about it, said, well, I think I will. Why not? I'll give it a try. So it's the Srimad Bhagavatam today, 6th canto, and it's chapter 1, chapter
1. Text 1.
Yeah. So chapter 3, Yamaraj instructs his messengers. As related in this chapter, the Yamadutas approach Yamaraj, who very exhaustively explained Bhagavatam, the religious principle of which he says, Yamaraj thus satisfied the Yamadutas, but in their disappointment. Yamaraj said, although Agni was calling for his son who chanted the holy name of the Lord Narayan simply by voice, the chanting of the holy name, he immediately achieved the association of Lord Vishnu's Adhoksajas, who saved him from your attempt to arrest him. This is quite all right. It is a fact that even a chronically sinful person who chants the holy name of the Lord, although not completely without offenses, does not take it as bad. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, Ajamil had met 4 old carriers of Lord Vishnu. They were very beautiful and had quickly come to rescue him. Yamaraj now described that. The Vishnu are all pure devotees of the Lord, the Supreme Person, in regard to the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this cosmic manifestation. Now the king Indra, Varuna, Shiva, Brahma, the seven rishis, that I myself can understand the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord, who is self-sufficient and beyond the reach of the material senses. With material senses, no one can attain enlightenment about him. The Lord, the master of the illusory energy, possesses transcendental qualities for the good fortune of everyone, and his devotees are also qualified in that way. The devotees concerned only with rescuing the fallen souls from this material world apparently take birth in different places in the material world just to save the conditioned souls. If one is somewhat interested in spiritual life, the devotees of the Lord protect him in many ways. Yamaraj continued, the essence of Sanatana Dharma or eternal religion is extremely confidential. No one but the Lord himself can deliver that confidential religious system to human society. It is by the mercy of the Lord that the transcendental system of religion can be understood by his pure devotees, and specifically by the 12 Mahajans, Lord Brahma, Narada Muni, Lord Shiva, the Kumaras, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, Janak, Bhishma, Bali, Shukadev Goswami, and me. Other learned scholars, headed by Jamini, are almost always covered by the illusory energy, and therefore they are more or less attracted by the flowery language of the three Vedas, namely the Rig, Raja, and Sama, which are called Trayi. Instead of becoming pure devotees, people captivated by the flowery words of these three Vedas are interested in the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. They cannot understand the glories of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Intelligent persons, however, take to the devotional service of the Lord. When they chant the holy name of the Lord without offenses, they are no longer subject to my rulings. If by chance they commit some sinful act, they are protected by the holy name of the Lord, because that is where their interest lies. The four weapons of the Lord, especially the club and the Sudarshan, always protect the devotees. One who chants, hears, or remembers the holy name of the Lord without duplicity, or who prays or offers obeisances to the Lord, becomes perfect, whereas even a learned person may be called to hell if he is bereft of devotional service. After Yamaraj thus described the glories of the Lord and his devotees, Shukadeva Goswami further explained the potency of chanting the holy name and the futility of performing Vedic ritualistic ceremonies and pious activities for atonement. So on to text 1. Sri Rajovacha Ishamya Deva Swa Bhato Pavrinitam Ishama Deva Swabato Pavrinitam Pratyaha Kim Tan Api Damaraj Pratyaha Kim Tan Api Damaraj Evam Atajyo Vibhatan Murare Evam Hatagyo Vihatan Murare Naideshika Yajya Vashe Jano Yam Naideshika Yajya Vashe Jano Yam Shirajovacha Nishamya Devaswa Bhatto Pavanitam Pratyaha Kim Tan Apidamajara Evam Hatagyo Vihatan Murare Naideshika Yajya Vashe Janoyam Shri Rajovacha Naishamya Deva Swabato Bhavanita Pratyaha Kim Tan Apidamaraja Evam hatagyo vihatan murare. Naideshika yajavashe janoyam. Shirajovacha. Tamritam. Patyaha kim tan apidamaraja. Evam hatagyo vihatan murare. Vashe jikaya yasya vashe janoyam. Nakai tamarare. Yojanaya. Ladies, Shirajurvacha. Utanitam. Padya kim tam apidamaraja. Vivamataryo vihatan marare. Shirajurvacha. Shamya deva swabato bhavanitam. Vachaha kintana pidamaracha. Evam hatagyo vihatan murare. Deshika yasya vashojanan. Shri Rajurvacha. The king said, Maishamya, after hearing, Deva, Lord Yamaraj, Swabhata, of his own servants, Upavanitam, the statements, Pratyaha, replied, Kim, what, Tan, unto them, Api, also, Dhamaraja, Yamaraj, the superintendent of death and the judge of religious and irreligious activities. Evam, thus, Hata Agya, whose order was foiled, Vihatan, who were defeated, Murare Naida Shekai, by the order carriers of Murari Krishna, Yaja, of whom, Vashe, under the subjugation, Jana Ayam, all the people of the world. Translation, King Parikshit said, "O my lord, O Shukadev Goswami, Yamaraj is the controller of living entities in terms of their religious and irreligious activities, but his order has been foiled. When his servants, the Yamadutas, informed him of their defeat by the Vishnudutas, who had stopped them from arresting Ajamil, what did he reply?" Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says that although the statements of Yamadutas were fully upheld by Vedic principles, the statements of the Vishnudutas were triumphant. This was confirmed by Yamaraj himself. Omagana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Manitam Yena Tasma Shri Guruvei Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Bhagadamayam Dadati Swabadantika Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchikapatrubhischa Kripasindubhye Vacha Paditanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I just thought that was interesting that the Yamadutas were disappointed. They were very disappointed because the Yamadutas are satisfied to see sinful people being punished, and when a sinful person seems to get off scot-free, then they become disappointed. I thought that was interesting. If we don't see justice in society, then people in general will become disappointed. If the rogues and rascals are getting away with it, and innocent people are being sometimes taxed and discriminated against, then obviously the general people will not be very satisfied with that. And somebody was reading Brihad Bhagavatam Rita, and he was saying that, she was saying actually that Gop Kumar was noticing how in Vaikuntha the Vishnu Dutas are always coming and going because they go to the material world all the time to escort the souls back into the spiritual world. So they're always busy going backwards and forwards. So just by chanting the holy name, even if you're chronically sinful, generally if you're chronic, usually refers to like a really bad disease. So chronically sinful. Of course, the sinful activity is referred to Vikriditam Rajavadabe Idam Cha Vishnu Shadan Vito Nishunayad Atavanayadya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Hidrogam Avapanoti Ashvapa Hinoti Acharena Dira. And it refers there in the 10th canto that the heart is Hidrogam. It's a disease of Kaman Hidrogam. The disease of the heart is immediately destroyed by hearing about the pastimes of Krishna, Vikriditam Rajavadabhya, and his pastimes in Vrindavan. So that is the surest way of becoming free from the diseased condition. The diseased condition is also referred to as avidya, the disease of ignorance. And by taking something that is sweet, although it may not taste sweet in the beginning, but by continually taking it, then eventually the mula hantri, the disease of that disease, is destroyed at the root. So the Vishnu Dutas were pure devotees. They were acting as shiksha gurus for Ajamil. They initiated them into the whole process of devotional service, which he took very seriously. In a few short years, it doesn't say exactly how many. It doesn't say how he left his body as well. It just says he saw the Vishnu Dutas again, and he knew that was it. His time was up. So a devotee doesn't experience death the same way as, of course, you could have 100 people in the room and they all died at the same time, and it would seem like they all experienced the same thing. But death is not so much an external experience as an internal experience. And depending on your consciousness, those 100 people in the room will all experience death in a different way. So for a devotee, then death isn't the same type of disturbance. In fact, it's the most momentous occasion of one's life, is the point where, after doing all our devotional activities, culminates at the time of death. And here it says that even if you're not completely without offenses, you do not take another material birth. So this is a very encouraging section in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the essence of religion, of Sanatana Dharma, or eternal religion, is extremely confidential. And is only understood by the pure devotees, the 12 Mahajans, whereas other learned scholars like Jamini are still covered by the illusory energy. Taini Brahma Hridaya Avikantam Yansarya Tejo Varimadam Yatamanyo Yatarchasago Mishadam Nasvaina Sadana Rastiku Kamsachamparam. Even the sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. So they, due to that illusory energy, they cannot understand the glories of chanting the holy name. So understanding the glories of chanting the holy name is quite a big subject, because the only way really you can understand the glories of chanting the holy name is to experience the pure chanting of the holy name oneself. So we're on the path to trying to understand the glories of the holy name. So when they chant the holy name without offense, they're no longer subject to my rulings. This is Yamaraj. If by chance they commit some sinful act, apachat sudaracharo, they are protected by the holy name. Just as the ground is the only shelter for one who has fallen, so you, my Lord, are the only shelter for one who commits offenses against you. So after Yamaraj described the glories of the devotees, Shukadeva Goswami explained the potency of chanting, and then we're on to the translation, which is that the servants, the Yamadutas, informed Yamaraj of their defeat by the Vishnudutas. And so now Yamaraj is going to explain, because the Vishnudutas are a little bit confused at what just happened, because at least on paper, they're completely correct, and but they were not able to thwart the Vishnudutas who didn't allow them to escort Ajamil away. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. At the back there. Yeah?
Yeah, like how Yamaraj took it, well, that his order was foiled.
Yes.
Although he's, a very powerful personality, and technically, whether it's directly or indirectly, it was his order to take Ajamil. Maybe he wasn't directly involved, but that's what Yamadutas do. According, and Ajamil was very sinful, so he was sent, and then orders foiled, and he took it like really well, and explained to them who is the higher authority for him.
Yeah. So it's nice that we get a glimpse into what's going on, the cosmological dynamics of creation. We're getting a glimpse into what's going on behind the scenes. Generally people don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. They don't even know there is a behind the scenes. They're just in the drama, identifying with all the theatrical stage props and taking that this is the all in all. But behind the curtains, there's a whole arrangement going on, and there's a whole surveillance system going on. There's CCTV throughout the entire universe. Nobody does anything that doesn't get watched or seen or recorded. And then later on, when these people go in court, at least in America anyway, they show you these little clips of this judge who's always letting people off. But when they say, you drove through a red light at such and such a place, and then the person says, no, that wasn't me. And then they have a screen and they show the car and the registration. And then the person goes, oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that's right. So the Yamadutas are like, they've got it all, everything's recorded, so you don't get away with anything. And then at the time of death, you're up there in the courtroom. No, that wasn't. Oh, I wasn't. Oh, yeah, sorry, that was me. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. and then they have to take their whatever particular method is considered best for the living entity's progress. That's really what it's for. And the Yamadutas were disappointed because they were thinking, well, we're doing a very important service here. We're correcting the souls that have been gone off the track, and we're going to help them to appreciate what they should be doing and what they should be doing, you know. Like sometimes you do that with a child, you hit the child, but you're doing that to the child to try and help the child so the child doesn't put himself in a dangerous situation in the future. So that's the way the whole system is set up. And in the mode of ignorance, then people don't really wonder where they've come from or where they're going, or what are going to be the ramifications of what they're doing. They're just in the situation right now, going from one sense object to the next. And that's really, in their mode of passion, people are trying to better themselves and trying to be better than everybody else. And then mode of goodness is starting to think, well, what is actually going on? You know, how come I'm here? Where did I come from? What happens when this is finished? Where do we all go? What's the meaning of this? What's the whole point of everything? So if you're in the mode of goodness, I remember as a child, I was very much in the mode of goodness in the beginning. Well, not so very much, but a little bit in the mode of goodness in the beginning, asking these questions. And then kind of as you go through the educational system, it kind of gets beaten out of you. Well, is he asking that question again? Can we just have a game of football? And forget that, you know. So then you're forced into the mode of passion and then in the mode of ignorance. And instead of educating, what it really does is it dumbs down the living entity, so he just becomes a consumer and a cog which will do his bit in the mechanism. There's a huge mechanism set up. That's the social system. It's meant to produce profit. And a few people get the real profits, and then everyone else is just kind of kept fed just what they need just to keep them lubricated, really, keep them going along, you know. They were saying to Henry Ford, why don't we get robots? Because we don't have to pay robots. And Henry Ford said, yeah, but robots don't drive cars. So you need people to sell the products to that you're getting them to make. But of course, you only give them a small amount. You give them a lump of dough, and they make 10 buns with the lump of dough, and they bake it, and they bring it back to you, and you say, thank you very much. There's threepence, and you take the 10 pieces of dough that are now cooked, and you say, would you like a piece of dough yourself? He said, yeah. How much are they? You say, threepence each. And you give them one back, get the threepence, and you sell the other 9 to somebody else. That's how the system works. So, yeah, people are dissatisfied with that. But because they're in the mode of ignorance, then they can't really see the bigger picture. And so mode of ignorance isn't just learning books, because you could learn the books, but you could still be a very smelly, dirty mode of ignorance person. You have to come into the mode of goodness, sattva, lead a clean life, become very clear-headed, eat the right type of food, and then you can assimilate the information properly and implement it and start to realize and start to become aware that this is actually truth, you know, this is true. So yeah, it's nice to get that type of insight, and people unfortunately are being bombarded with so much speculation about what is going on, you know, and people, because they don't really know what is going on, then they become trekkers. Do you know what a trekker is? You don't know what a trekker is? Jananda, tell the. No, a trekker is a star trekker. And they go around like that, you know, and they believe, because they know that there must be something, so they get into Star Trek, or they get into Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings, or something to make life a bit more meaningful than it is. But because it's all just speculation, then it's all just, you know, one form of mode of ignorance or another. So to be able to come across literature like this and to gain insight. And by the, I just heard yesterday actually, Mahaprabhu was with one of his godbrothers, and they were talking about Srila Prabhupada reading his books, and Srila Prabhupada was saying, just by reading my books, it's like being initiated by Srila Prabhupada by reading his books. So that's how, that's the line of Shiksha, that we're taking so much instruction and insight from Srila Prabhupada. So if we have faith in Srila Prabhupada, that's foundational to us being able to access all this information, all this knowledge, because when Prabhupada's saying it, so this is it, this must be the truth, you know.
Thank you. Another interesting thing that strikes in this purport, and it's section actually in this pastime, is that how the mercy and forgiveness is superior to rules and regulations and punishment. Although punishment and regulations, etc., they have their place, but the real goal of all that setup that is here in this material world and punishment and etc. is actually to go back to Godhead, which requires a lot of mercy. So it's important in our own life as well to set those priorities in our dealings as devotees, that compassion and forgiveness is a superior principle to rules and regulations. And if we, of course, they are important and we have to be strict, but at the same time, where this whole thing is leading to, not just for the sake of rules and regulations to establish some sort of controllership or something, but it's, you may end up Yamaduta, actually, if you're too much overstressed that over compassion and forgiveness, then this is the mentality of Yamaduta, which is, of course, it's a nice service to do to Yamaraj, but again, is not our goal.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's a few aspects to that, actually. One is, the Yamadutas could have got hold of, just let's say the Yamadutas did push the Vishnudutas off and say, forget it, we're going to take him, and they took him and they punished him like anything. There's no guarantee that Ajamil would have become a better person by doing that. So that's right in the very beginning, actually, the Bhagavatam, isn't it? Maharaj Parikshit's asking, well, what's the point of atonement if the person is going to do the same thing? You imprison the person, then he comes out and commits the same thing, because it's a superficial. But what is also interesting is that even though Ajamil had seen the Vishnudutas, that wasn't the end. Then he had a chance. There's that book, The Second Chance. He had a chance, just like right now, we all have a chance. To some degree or another, we've seen the Vishnudutas, or we've seen the horror of material existence, and we've become afraid, and we wanted to take up some type of spiritual process because we've become afraid. We've become very distressed, so that's been. But now that we have a second chance, there's no guarantee that we won't go back and start breaking the rules and the regulations again. If you're shown mercy and compassion, you're given a chance, but it's not necessarily. And if you abused it, like if Ajamil had decided to abuse that mercy and compassion, he would have been meeting his old friends again, the Yamadutas. And they said, okay, we're going to get you this time. You slipped away the last time. But I tell you, we've been hanging around here waiting, and we knew you'd slip up eventually, and you're going to get it now. But we're going to really get you now because you've messed it up the first time. And we're really going to take you for a pasting. So that's why once you come into knowledge, then you have to be very careful, because if you break the rules and regulations knowingly, then there's even more of a reaction. Whereas Ajamil, the reason why his chanting was Namabhasa is because he wasn't knowingly. He'd completely forgotten everything. He was so in the mode of ignorance. So once you come into knowledge, then there's extra responsibilities that are there as well. So when you get mercy and compassion, it's not like, oh, I've just got mercy and compassion. Hari Bo. Okay, I'm going to Santa Fe. I'll see you in 6 months. I've got so much mercy and compassion. I'm just going to have a great time, Okay, you've got mercy and compassion. What are you going to do with it? Now that you find love, what are you gonna do with it? So you get it. You get the love. Okay, you've got the love, but that's not the end. It's not like, whoopee, I've got the love, Hari Bol. That's the beginning. You've been initiated now. Okay, so you've taken to the path. You've taken up the process. What are you going to do? Everyone's watching now. Everyone. They're all, okay, he's been given the chance. He's got his beads. He's got his new name. What's he going to do? How's he going to go now? How's he going to navigate across the ocean of eternal existence? And how many is he going to help come out as well, So, yeah, and it's interesting, Rupa Goswami refers to rules and regulations as niyamagraha. So there's two sides of niyamagraha. One is you can't be bothered with rules and regulations, and the other is you're completely, I remember one time, this devotee, it was a Kadashi, and we were looking at a crusty roll, and he came over and he goes, this is a Kaddish, you shouldn't even be looking at this. He was so fanatic, And another time we were having these, we made this salad with raisins, and it said on the packet vegetable oil, but we didn't know what vegetable oil it was. So it was a big salad, and we said, we're just going to have a salad anyway. And there's one devotee, it could be any type of vegetable. It could be corn oil. You're breaking a Kadashi. We're probably going to go to hell for this. I'm not touching it. So we had his share of the salad, so we had like this massive mound of salad. We said, it's really nice. It was super, super. And the ones that are super, super fanatic, they're the ones, a couple of months later, they've got a hamburger stand on an industrial estate, and they've gone completely the other way, one extreme to the other, because they didn't understand. The whole point of the rules and regulations was just to help you follow, it's just to help you become aware of Krishna and remember Krishna and not forget Krishna. That's what the whole point was. So you could be throwing your raisins out your salad, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be, that's helping you remember Krishna,
Another principle that Prabhupada often quoted that Rupa Goswami established, especially in the beginning, that our goal is to attract people to Krishna, and then the rules and regulations will automatically follow. Yeah. So when this highest principle established of attraction and you remember Krishna, then the rules and regulations naturally follow because you want to please Krishna and you get the strength from that attraction.
Yeah.
And if you read about this initiations.
Yeah, that's a nice point. Yeah, that's how the Hare Krishna movement began. It didn't begin by, there's one man actually, we used to do book distribution on Oxford Street. And there was this man that used to walk up and down with a sandwich board. And it said on it, no yoga, no cheese, no peanuts, no dancing. There was a whole list of them, and it said, if you do these things, you'll go to hell. And I went up to him once and I said, do you believe that yourself? He says, not really, but you used to spend all day walking up and down Oxford Street. He was actually quite nice. He took books and everything. He said, you've got to believe something. So it's like, okay, well, this sounds like a good set of rules and regulations. If I follow this, I can consider myself better than anybody else, That's all it boils down to. But why no peanuts? Why can't we dance? So, yeah, well, there's it's called a grungy payoff. A grungy is when you adopt something which is a negative state of mind, but the payoff is that you can feel better than anybody else. Or you could be a victim, and your grungy is because I'm a victim, therefore you can't hold me responsible. You can't rely upon me because when I was a kid, my dad hit me on the head with a lollipop, and it really hurt. So I'm just a victim now. So people adopt these grungies and then the payoff is by me following all these strict things, then I can look down at you and think that I'm better than you. You see, so that's unfortunately what following rules and regulations can degrade to. It's like Radhanath Maharaj was saying, you can be fasting. You're on Ekadashi, sometimes you can do a complete fast, no drinking or nothing. And then you're looking at everybody else and you think, look at the size of his plate. He is such a pig. And he thinks he's a devotee. He's a disgrace. And Radhanath Maharaj was saying, you're fasting, but your false ego is feasting. You're really thinking that you're something special, So there's an ulterior motive in that. So the real reason for the rules and the regulations is just to enhance our attraction for Krishna. So in the beginning, we're just trying to establish that attraction for Krishna. And then later on, the rules and the regulations will follow naturally. Just like if you develop a relationship with somebody, and then later on, when you love that person, and then the person says, I really can't stand the color red, and you go, okay, I'll never wear red again. You'll follow whatever rules and regulations. Because once you have a relationship and you have a high regard for that person, then you want to avoid anything that upsets that person naturally. You will, Whereas if you just say you shouldn't wear red, why not? What's wrong with red? I think red's fine, So yeah, Niyamagraha it's Achihara Priyasa Prajalpa Niyamagraha. There's 6 things that spoil devotional service. And it actually spoils. It's funny because you'd think, well, at least if he's really strict and fanatical, that would be good for his devotional service because he won't get into any nonsense, But it actually spoils. He actually spoils your devotional service, and it spoils other people, and it spoils your relationship with other people as well. And really, devotional service is very relational. It's very relationship orientated. So it would be a major impediment if you were doing something which was impacting upon your relationships with others. It's probably having a good relationship with devotees is even more important than following the rules and the regulations. If the devotees have affection for you and you're not following things so strictly, but you have really good relations, the devotees love you and you love the devotees and you're serving them and helping them, then you're in a better position than the person who, as soon as the devotees say, oh, here's that fanatic again, quick, hide in the bush. Don't let him see you eating that chocolate bar. He won't let you off for months. Everybody runs out of his way. Like with wasn't it Ramachandra Puri? He was trying to find some fault with Lord Chaitanya. Any fault he could find. The only thing he could find was there was a lot of ants. And I mean, it could be a lot of ants anyway. In India you see lots of ants anyway. And he goes, oh, that shows you must be eating sweets, and they're coming for the particles of sugar, so you must be overeating. And then he criticized him, So he was following the rules and regulations really, really strictly, but he was offending the devotees. So that wasn't good either. That's a nice pastime illustrating that point, actually. And yeah, like Raghunath is saying, if you get too much into rules and regulations and you want to see people punished all the time, and then you're disappointed when they don't get punished, then you could be going into Yamaduta consciousness. The International Society for Yamaduta Consciousness. So it's supposed to be a society of loving relationships, cultivating loving relationships. And if you don't love somebody, Mahaprabhu was saying, if you say you love Krishna and you don't love him, then that means to that degree you don't love Krishna. So if you think of all the people and all the things that you know in your existence, and if any of them you do not feel love for, then that's how much you don't love Krishna. So when you have pure love for Krishna, then you love everything. You love the flies, you love the postman, you love the dog that's barking and making a terrible noise, everything. You love everyone and everything. That's a sign that you've achieved love for Krishna, because you see everything as part and parcel of Krishna. Because you love Krishna, it's Krishna's creation, then you love everything. And the Vishnu Dutas, they weren't like disappointed that Ajamil wasn't going to get punished. They were happy. They were happy. They were going to give him a chance, and they knew that he would perfect himself. So they were happy that he was going to go home.
Giving a chance It shows, you can give a more encouragement for a person to rectify than the punishment itself. Of course, it was quite an interesting situation that there was like two things happening at the same time, and he was in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So it helped him to kind of go the right way. And that heaviness of the Yamadutas also played, some role in there.
And Narada Muni used the same with Magrari. He showed Magrari what was going to happen to him in the future. And the same with King Paranjan, I'm just reading about now. he sees what's going to happen. Actually, there's another king anyway. Narada Muni revealed what would happen to him in the future. I think it was King Prachinabharisha. Yeah, he showed him that all the animals you'd sacrificed, they'll be coming for you later on after this life. So you have a very strong incentive not to do, mercy and compassion, and then now go ahead and go and do it. I mean, that's really bending over backwards to make sure the living entity goes back. I mean, you can't get much more than that, right? You show them the stick, and then you show them. I remember one time the headmaster, we'd done something really wrong. I was only about, I think I was 6 or 7, and we'd done something wrong, and the headmaster took us into his room, and he goes, "You've been very, very naughty boys." We were like, "Oh no!" And then instead of a cane, because you used to get the cane, he brought a broomstick out, and we were like, because at that time you were allowed to hit kids. So we saw the broomstick, and we both went white, And a friend who was with me, he was like a really tough guy, and he was like, and then he got the broomstick, and he went whack on this on the chair, this chair, and he whacked it that hard, all this dust came up, and we were just like, and he goes, "I'm warning you, now get out." And we were so good, at least for a week anyway. So if he'd have been a Yamaduta and he'd have given us a bead bag, we probably would have started chanting, actually, because we were that scared, So that's how kind Krishna is. He really sets the living entity up so that he doesn't have much choice, to say, "Well, I think I'll be a naughty boy. Can you give me a whack with that broom?" I mean, who's going to do that, Only the most foolish living entity. So we get a chance to read that, and we can learn without getting scared into it. And so hopefully we will. Iskon Guruvinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi, Haribo.